Pennywise. Bum, 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 bum. Pennywise is a shape-shifting, crazy demon clown guy.
Demonic baby animal.
It's been about 2 months, still haven't seen Pennywise. Today will be the first day.
I see him in like 4 hours. They're gonna put him in the place that we're about to film, and then when we go in there, they're gonna have our first reaction. I'm excited. I'm like really excited.
We've only seen him like in a video, but we've never seen him like in real life.
I really hope Bill's not method.
With how scary this house is and how scary he is, man, it's not gonna be any acting. It's really gonna be scary.
There's something always off about clowns. There's never a well-finished, happy clown. There's something off all the time. It's in their makeup, in their hair, in their dress. So I never understood why they would be attractive to kids. Actually, I think they repel kids more than anything else. They definitely repelled me.
Well, the clown is a bait. It's an incarnation that basically is designed to attract children, because children like clowns, supposedly.
Pennywise is a tricky character because it essentially is an entity that's been around since before time, essentially, in a different world, in a different dimension. And he comes to Earth and hibernates, and then he's awoken and he starts feeding off of humans, preferably children. And Pennywise is one of his shapes that he takes to kind of lure children in and to feed off of them. Even just to audition for this part was fun for me, because it was just like, do your interpretation of what you think the clown would be.
What I remember most about first seeing his audition was that he put the makeup on. And I don't remember anybody else putting the makeup on. From the first time you saw him, you weren't seeing him, you were seeing his interpretation of a clown, and you were also seeing that he was committed to the point where he had someone do his makeup. Passion often wins the day, and Bill brought incredible passion. He chased this role, he knew he could do it, and he was going to make us understand that he could do it. But certainly in our mind, in Andy's mind, the decision was a very easy one.
I probably connected with his madness and the inner balance of someone who can look very cute and sweet and childlike, but is hiding something terrifying. And when I saw Bill for the first time, I saw it immediately.
Where you going at?
His performance was brilliant because he was on that verge. I saw his eyes. He was basically transmitting something so powerful that I got very curious.
It meant a lot for me that Andy responded to whatever I did. And because of that, we did have kind of a connection from the beginning. He trusted me and I trusted him. So we kind of both figured out what the character was together, and then I could really go for it and know that I was in good hands.
Well, float down here.
Apart from being an incredibly talented actor, he has an amazing control over his body and some weird control of his face in particular.
I do this thing with my lip. It's a thing that I've been doing since I was a little kid. And I always wanted to bring this lip thing into a character. So going into the audition, I was like I wanted to use the face and play around with that.
I wanted to give Pennywise a walled eye, because in my vision of the character, sometimes his eye would fall off, and something that was very cute and sweet turns into something much more unsettling because he has that weird balance. So when I mentioned that I wanted to do that digitally, he said, I can do it.
I had kind of a lazy eye and I can make it go.
It was crazy because what are the chances that the actor that you cast can do that practically?
I'm not afraid of you.
There was all these different things that I've been meaning to put into a character. Then this character appeared, and I just kind of put all these things together to make as much of a weird, disturbing performance as possible.
Egg boy!
It was hard for me to figure out what the character looked or moved like or anything, because such a big part of it is the makeup and the costume. And I didn't know what that would be or how it would look or how it would feel to have on you. So going into it, I kind of really broke down the character intellectually, like what I think this entity is, but I couldn't really physically become him until I got all the makeup and the costume on.
And he's a very visual person, and he's constantly drawing and drawing and drawing. And I think that was the Pennywise he would get when he would close his eyes.
My approach to the look and behavior of Pennywise was based on the essence of the character from the book, but also on a different perception of the character, which was more edgy. I wanted him to bring something new to the story. I wanted him to be more unpredictable and mad. And Bill is an actor that naturally brings that to the set because he never does the same thing. He's always bringing a little bit of nuance in every take that he does, and that's priceless.
It mentions in the novel somewhere Pennywise is its favorite form. He really enjoys doing the clown. So that was something that I wanted to play up as well, that he's having fun while he's doing this.
Beep, beep, Richie.
You're playing an entity that's playing a clown. So it's like these kind of steps. And I wanted to get that into the character, that there's kind of glitches almost, that it's not just a clown, it's just something off, something weirder, something even more sinister. I wanted to create this feeling that you never know what's gonna happen when the clown's around.
Again, it's a shapeshifter. So in the beginning, we see him in the storm drain. He has these beautiful blue eyes, which are Bill's eyes, and we didn't want to hide them because that's a moment when he wants to lure Georgie in.
The childlike thing was part of the visual look of him. There's prosthetic pieces around my cheeks to kind of get those little childlike roundness of the face. There's the teeth. Pennywise is created out of the imagination of children.
Time to float.
So he lives and breathes by children, or because of children in a sense. So it only made sense to me that there's a childlike quality to him because he's forever linked to children.
No, don't. Let him go.
No, I'll take him. I'll take all of you. And I'll feast on your flesh as I feed on your fear.
Seeing Bill in costume was overpowering.
I did have a separation because of everything, and you walk out to the crew and they go like, "Oh, hey Bill, how are you? Go, those eyes are cool." Yeah, it was a hard time for people even to just like be normal around you as well because of how you looked. It was by far also, in a way, the loneliest production I've ever worked on, at least from my part, you know. But I think it also benefited and helped the performance.
Just as Pennywise, he'd be so massive and overpowering and would look down on you, sometimes with his yellow eyes, sometimes with his blue eyes.
There's just so much going into putting on the makeup and the outfit and everything, and it's very uncomfortable. So I had kind of my little team, like the little Pennywise squad, which is Neil and Shane, who's the two prosthetics guys, and Miranda overseered my costume, and Jasmine to put in my contacts. Like, we were a little crew of like my team of people. They were the ones that saw me, did me, and made Pennywise come to life. And then I would go to set, and then there would be this little Pennywise tent where I would just sit by myself. So there's this huge kind of detachment from the crew and me as a person, because there was just so much going on. And then a lot of the scenes that I do really demanded your focus, and you just needed to be in sort of a state of mind, at least, or I wanted to be in a state of mind, at least.
And also, we wanted to keep him away from the kids as much as possible because we wanted their reaction to be real.
They've been very secretive. Andy's been very secretive of it. I saw a picture. I don't know if it was. I've seen character models, but I was shooting and I saw something on Barbara's computer that I probably shouldn't have seen. I don't know if it was him, but it might have been a character model. I'm not sure. I have no idea.
The kids have shot like a month and a half already, and they've gotten to know each other, and they were all like kind of best buddies at this point. And nobody had seen Pennywise, or not, the kids hadn't seen me at least.
Have you guys seen Pennywise yet?
Nope.
No.
No.
We're not allowed to see him. Oh, I think he's bad. I'm gonna call he has blue hair.
I'm gonna say he's.
I already think I know. I heard something. I heard one thing. That he has one green eye and one orange eye.
It's supposed to look like a mime. Something like a mime.
That's the only thing
I heard from Andy.
I wanted to keep the distance between Bill and the kids because I wanted to carry that tension to the set. until the last moment. Of course, it's normally good for one scene, but that one scene was very essential because it was the moment where all the losers confront Pennywise.
I think we all also decided mutually that it would be good to see him for the first time and just be freaked out. Because like in my stomach, I was like, oh my God, this is it. This is good. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be amazing. And it was, and it was terrifying.
If you see Bill like walking into the set, he's like this impulsive 6'4" guy with a giant head and crazy hair and these crazy eyes. And the fact that he kept the distance with the rest of the kids generated another uncomfortableness in them. And I think the tension was very palpable and the scare was real.
I'm not real enough for you.
He's just so sporadic. You don't know what he's gonna do. You don't know if he's gonna love you, kill you, choke you. It's scary. I don't know what else to say. It's just scary.
It wasn't real enough for Georgie.
Oh my God. I still haven't seen Bill in real life, like actually as Bill since the table read, which was at the start of June.
The first scene I shot was with Jack. I think it's probably one of the, if not the most intense scene in the film in terms of Pennywise and another actor, because it's so in his face.
Oh, wow. Yeah, his warm-up routine is insane. Like, he's getting his hair and makeup stuff, he goes, and he just freaks out. It's insane.
As soon as it called action, it's on, and it's like me trying to be as kind of horrific as I can, and loud and physical and like all these things. I really get into his face, and he's like crying and like gagging because I'm drooling on him.
Tasty, tasty, beautiful fear.
Andy has a thing with spit and drool. Like, I don't know what it is that appeals him about spit, but there's something about it that he loves. So I got a lot of drool on me.
He's very drooly, and he brought this to the character, and it's a great thing because it's like Pennywise, he gets hungry in the presence of, scared children.
So basically, Pennywise is slamming Jack or Eddie against the wall, and they're both so great. I mean, this is the first day or second day with Pennywise, and he's insane.
As I'm doing it, I'm like, this is great, but like I can't pull back now because we're rolling, and then a cut, fantastic cut. And I just go like, okay, Jack, are you okay? And he just goes like, oh, that was awesome, man. That was awesome. That was awesome. I love what you're doing, man. I love what you're doing. Love what you're doing.
Bill is young. He's 25, super athletic. We were shocked at how little stunt work we had to use. He was so physical that we barely needed any of it.
I'm all for having a stunt guy doing something that's dangerous. There's so much about some of the fight sequences in the movie where Pennywise's physicality must be Pennywise's physicality, and I wanted to bring my movement and physicality in as much as I could. It was exhausting. We would do the scene, and it's like so much physicality and noise and screaming, and I would messing up my voice, and the kids are like all fighting. And as soon as they said cut, I'm like on the ground, just like just breathing, and like so the kids walk over, it's like, hey Bill, you okay, man? You okay? Yeah, it just a second, just let me catch my breath here.
I feel bad. I'm hitting Bill really hard. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. I'm hitting him hard to me. For him, it's like a baby tap.
Do you want a balloon too, Georgie?
I'm not supposed to take stuff from strangers.
Oh, well, I'm Pennywise, the dancing clown. Pennywise? Yes, meet Georgie. Georgie, meet Pennywise.
I knew that there was something in the character that would grow during the shoot and something that we would discover. I think it was a great idea that we left that opening scene for the end because we learned so much about Pennywise. By going down that journey, both of us observing what was going on and basically paying attention to that evolution in performance and realizing what worked and what didn't.
Can you smell the circus, Georgie? There's peanuts, cotton candy.
There was a lot of pressure to get that scene right. That we created, it's a pressure we created, Andy and I. It's iconic because it's very clearly an important moment in the book. And it's true that if you were exposed at any time of your life to it, you're gonna think of that. It's very difficult, for me at least, to look at a storm drain and not think of Pennywise lurking.
I should get going now.
Without your boat?
The result of that exploration basically paved the way for making that conversation between Georgie and Pennywise something that we could calculate better. I couldn't be more happy with the result.
I think this is probably the most exhausting character I've ever played. Every scene I'm in this film is just 100% energy at all times. So it wasn't easy at all.
When you're creating a character that is unpredictable, you definitely can use versatility in the performance. And that's definitely, if you see the movie, you can notice, you can see how that unpredictability plays, and it plays into the scary. Working with Bill was a real blast.
It is different, obviously, like any adaptation should be, but the essence is so much there. And then having someone like Stephen King approving of it, when he saw it, it's the seal of approval that you would want, right? The guy that created the novel thinks the movie did a good job, so I do hope that fans will feel the same way. All right, little man.
He's not looking at you.
But then, of course, they ended up spending a full day in a flooded basement.
Perfect. You want me to kind of come up to here, maybe?
Yeah.
Like as an end mark?
First, just the eyes. I need to keep your chin down. Much more threatening. He's incredibly talented. The control of like every muscle in his face is like just amazing. It's very impressive. He like did things physically in this movie that he never did before or never tried before. I think it was a very, very exhausting work.
You'll float too.
You'll
float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too. You'll float too.
That
was very good.
You can't really relate to Pennywise. You can't relate to him in any way because Bill's definitely not a child-killing clown. Maybe. I don't know. Maybe he is.
Come join the clown, Eds. We all float down here.
I don't need to base this out of something human, really. There's definitely human aspects of it, because, like, everything is. So, like, psychopathy or, like, evil or sinister or has, you know, lust and hunger and, like, all these feelings are directly human or animalistic, at least. And those are things that you could pinpoint and relate to, or for me to relate to, and then create a character through it.
That's great.
Let's see the one before.
Yeah. It's like
And,
resting on his head, like at the angle.
Anthony, play the one before that, please.
I had a conversation in his trailer where we had this like you know, very serious conversation about the changing the lines, the dialogue, and suddenly I realized that I'm talking to a clown, and he doesn't know it.
No.
Because he's not seeing himself, and I'm talking to a clown that is like all like smeared with children's blood, and he's like talking like very serious to me about like saying like this line and not the other. I took a picture of the event, so I will show it. We will put it and we will cut it in as I'm saying this. We will cut it in. You see it, and I really have to give it to Bill because he did an amazing job, and his energy was at full all the time.
A feast where my life, ripe fear, raw fright, a belly full of blood, dripping dread. Can you smell tasty Georgie on my breath?
The last scene of the film when they fight Pennywise, that's required a lot of work for them.
As you can see, we do intense fighting. We train for our final battle with Pennywise every day.
The power of belief is what allows them to fight Pennywise, and the power of belief that they create as a group. And you can see it when they're performing. And they feed from each other, which is fantastic to see. And that's actually what happens in the film.
Jesus.
I think we do it too much, but we like to joke around on set because things are getting really emotional now. We're about to leave, and also the scenes are just so tough. We're fighting Pennywise, so we're having fun as much as we can.
Hey, Wyatt.
Hi.
Hey, Wyatt here.
What happened, Wyatt? I went to prosthetics, and then things happened.
There's this scene that was shot in the last few days of principal photography at the sewers where Stan is attacked by Judith, one of the incarnations of it. When the monster releases him and the kids go to aid him, he's out of his mind and crying and like blaming them for letting him come into this horrible place.
I think being so close has helped our acting out a lot. For example, with the Wyatt scene, when we're saving Stanley, everybody felt like that was Wyatt. And I felt like I really hurt Wyatt and I hurt all my friends. And it just helped us a lot, getting that emotion out.
That day, we kind of like talked before the scene that we need a few minutes to really get into character because it was definitely an emotional scene and it's hard to just, when they say action, get into character.
And for a while, there's no screaming, and suddenly...
I did the scene 3 days in a row, so that means I cried my eyes out 3 days in a row. But at first, like, I didn't want to do it again, but then I was like, you know what, it's gonna look good, and I think it's gonna pay off. I've been in that place before. I've shut myself off from the world and just cried, but I think that was the first time they opened that door, and it's definitely hard. But I think a good hug will resolve everything.
It was definitely a very weird and out-of-body experience because I started crying out of nowhere and everyone just got really quiet. Like, roll. And they rolled it, and it was crazy, yeah.
I literally was tearing. We were all like crying, and it was like such a great thing because like the friendships are so strong in this film and in reality as well. It's so like amazing, and I just found that, and it's and after we did the take, we were all just like bawling our eyes out. It was insane.
That was really, really, really a triggering of the moment that they were living because they knew that the shoot was about to finish. I think it was such a beautiful experience for them. It was like the perfect summer. Their bonding was so real. It was the perfect trigger for them to like let go, and suddenly everybody was crying. They were like really bringing out the real emotions, and it was very touching.
A month ago, I remember being really sad that it was coming to an end. But I think we're all ready to go back to our normal lives. It couldn't have gone any other way. And I think we defined the Losers Club, I guess you could say. I think this is probably the best summer of my life.
The bond was real. And whatever happens from now on with their lives, that was a very, very, very special summer for them. And it's curious how much of a similarity it has to the story. I mean, the story, it ends up with the losers not seeing each other again as a group, which is a sad note. I don't think it will happen with these kids. They just bonded fantastically.
Adults is that you are the same. You can do things with your life, you can seem like you've evolved as a person, but really we're all still like the kids.
The power of unified belief, it's a group faith. It's faith in what you guys believed in as children. You can do it, you can accomplish those things.
And I find that really beautiful because the first film and the second film absolutely connect. The first one being learning how to be an adult, and the second film, the adults learning how to be children again.
We've been eating and breathing and sleeping through this book for 4 years, making these two glorious movies that have changed our lives.
I knew from the first couple of scenes where Georgie is running down the street and chasing his boat, that it was going to be good, that it had been made by somebody who understood the material and was going to be really working hard to make a scary picture, and that he was going to keep hold of the human element.
In my mind, this was always like the first half of the story, and not from a commercial perspective. I always imagined that there would be a second part.
Please don't go, girl.
Realistically, it's 1,230 pages, something like that. And chapter 1 covers maybe 300 pages. So we had a lot to cover, and we knew that.
There is some certainties about the things that you plan in your mind that happen at the end from what you see and from what you perceive from the audiences. So obviously it's a big deal of confidence to see that your vision succeeded. It also gives you a lot of confidence for the bets that you're making on the second one.
One of the things that Andy understands as a filmmaker is that you have to care about the people in the story. With it, he put the kids first, and in the second movie, we see a wider perspective because we see an adult perspective. And as a result, you have an old-fashioned movie experience where you root for the good guys.
It felt like everybody wanted to be part of chapter 2. So it was kind of easy, the process of, getting the people that I wanted for the cast, because it felt like, this was characters that are worth playing.
Even as we were casting the kids, we were thinking of who to cast as the adults.
I love these characters so much, and I know that people love these characters so much. I want to be respectful to that and have the most amount of screen time for each of the characters. The characters are the same, but now they have like 2 versions.
There were 2 conditions. One was that they had to be great actors, of course, and the second one was that they really had to look like the kids.
We were all always hypothesizing on who would be the older selves. We'd pitch ideas to each other. And from the beginning, I was always Bill Hader.
That asshole Finn decided to throw my name in the mix.
It was almost like real life and the character of like, oh man, I want to be like that guy, like when I'm older.
So I had this meeting with Andy, and I sit down with him, and he's, do you know why you're here? You're here because Finn. Okay, there's an actor named Finn. He's in Stranger Things, and I know, yes. So Finn said that you should be Richie, and so I'm gonna have you be Richie. Okay, cool.
This is good.
I'm liking the upper half of this.
Let's get a medium. Right here. Right on my TV screen.
I saw Sophia Lillis walk into the room back in early 2016, and I looked at her and I said, oh, look, it's young Jess.
Andy was sending me pictures of Soph and me together, and he goes like, what do you think, in terms of the resemblance? And they had a beautiful screening for me on the lot, and I showed up and thinking it was just gonna be me, and Andy and Barbara were there, and Barbara handed me a glass of red wine, and they had popcorn, and I sat down, and then Andy was on this side, and Barbara, I was right there. And so I felt some pressure because they're dear friends of mine. I was like, oh, I really hope I like it, I hope I like it. But I knew how talented they were, so I knew I was gonna like it at the same time. And within the first 10 minutes of the film, I jumped and red wine went everywhere in the fancy screening room, and realized, that it was going to be an excellent horror film. And it was. And I love all those kids.
Let's put it like this. Jack Dylan Grazer is a young James Renzone. It's crazy because it's not only physical, it's the way they talk and the speed at which they think and talk, which is just non-human. And the joke was that the day that they would meet, they would combust.
All the stuff that has to do with Eddie Kaspbrak in the book and my impression of it, all I had to do was just do the best Jack Dylan Grazer impression that I could, and that was it.
And when I first met him, we had a moment where I was like, hi, nice to meet you. And then we both got nervous, awkward at the exact same time. It was really funny. It was really funny.
The casting process for me, it's probably the hardest one I've ever been through.
We put him through the ringer, this poor man. At that point, we had auditioned him 8 times, I think. We needed to read one more thing, and the casting director calls me and says, listen, he can't really do it today because he's on his way to the airport to get on a flight to get married.
And I was sitting there at the kitchen table, and I got a text, and my manager, she's like, can you go in one more time? And it was the next day, and I was like, wow, when? And she said, today. And I well, I'm flying out to my wedding, you know, in like a couple hours. So I went back upstairs, told my at the time fiance, I was like, hey, listen, here's the deal. They want to see me one more time today. Do you mind? And she's like, you know what, just meet me in Austin, take care of your business, you know, break a leg, and I'll meet you there. And I was like, perfect.
2 minutes later, I get a call from the casting director saying he's changed his flight.
I mean, I didn't think I could do any more than I did the first day.
This won't work without all of us. And they'll listen to you. They all listen to you.
So I did my best, and I thought, I don't know if I even reached what I reached the day before, but apparently I did.
And we gave it to him that day.
Actually, before I got on the flight, that same day that I auditioned, they called me and they told me that you got it. So I was like, whew.
Yeah, nice. You got pretty lucky.
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, I think you guys did an amazing job, if I do say so myself.
Yeah, especially with your background, with your role. No, it was a really, when I saw you, man, it was like, oh man, this is fucking good.
I remember us shooting the first film. We were trying, of course, and we were really working hard, but doing us justice, we were just there. We were the ones who were hoping we did well. But now everyone else, like the adult versions, are coming to us and saying, we hope we do well for you. But you don't have to do that.
So every single kid from the chapter 1 wrote a letter as their character to our older selves. So we just kind of gave them some insight about our friends and how we were feeling during those times and who were the closest and all that kind of thing. And I think that'll help. I think it'll be really, really cool.
I loved getting it so much. It really connected me very quickly to what she was feeling and what she was experiencing when playing the character. And also, when they played these parts, it was before the film came out and before it became this phenomenon. And there was this sense of easiness and lightness and purity. And I got all of that from her letter.
It was really fun to write. I definitely wrote a lot about Beverly and Bill, because Ben does not hate Bill. Ben is not particularly mad about Bill. What Ben really, really wants is for Beverly to know that he loves her and he would do anything for her, even if she doesn't love him back.
It was kind of sad, too, because he wrote it, you know, as in, I hope by the time I'm this age, I've broken through these fears and I am this kind of person. And it was kind of all things that I was kind of looking at and experimenting with. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see that I was on the right page anyway, as the character growing up.
Jaden was the thing that I really responded to in the first film, and so to get to come and try and do something with the same character, to try and be the next custodian of Bill Denborough, it was really to try and get to the heart of his guilt issues.
I told him about all of the things that I hate about Derry and why I wouldn't go back, but then I talked about all the things that I loved about it and why it's worth fighting for. And I talked a lot about his guilt about everything, about Georgie's death and for leading everyone. I was kind of talking about the fears that he should have, but kind of reassuring him that everything's gonna be all right.
You know, they had this thing where they wanted us all to sit at tables and talk with them and stuff, and they were kind of like, oh, you know, I'm the seasoned pro, I'll sit and chat. And by the end of it, I was like, I wanted them to like me so bad. I'm like, why? Oh, I don't think Wyatt likes me.
I was in LA for different reasons, months before we started shooting. I'd been away from him for, you know, a year and a half. Oh, yeah, more, almost 2 years. And then Andy wanted me to do a test for a VFX motion capture. And I thought it was just like basically me sitting in a chair, like doing this. But there was he's like, here's a scene for tomorrow that I want you to do. And I was like, oh, weird. Like, I don't know. Like, I've been away from the character for so long, and like, it's gonna be strange just like to go right back into it and do the scene. And I got the scene like the night before. You're sitting in a chair, and there's a bunch of cameras on you to do the motion capture. And, you know, and just go like, okay, action, you know. And it was just like, Pennywise.
Did you miss me, Richie? Did you miss me? Oh, I missed you. What game should we play? Operation? Oh, I'd like that one.
And it was weird. He was just instantly there. And I didn't know that was going to be that way, but yeah, he was just, I guess, ever present and just like exploded out of me.
Oh, I know your secret, your dirty little secret, your dirty little secret. Should I tell them, Richie? Should I tell them all?
There's something about like me doing Pennywise, full-on Pennywise without makeup on that's like almost even more disturbing than Pennywise himself, because it's just so weird to see a normal person doing that.
I just wanted to say that, you know, on our first experience, we had a lot of fun doing the movie, and I'm hoping to repeat the experience. So just have that in mind. It's going to be great, and thank you.
How are you? This is your 11th cup of coffee.
This is my 11th cup of coffee, and I'm gonna enjoy every sip of it. And
Hi, guys.
I'm not Mike.
First time in Toronto.
First time in Canada.
First time in Canada. Everybody wanted to come back, basically, and most of them like made it. It proved to be like a great thing. You know, you develop a shorthand with the people you work with again and again, personal relationship that bring everyone together and generates like a good energy on set and off set, really making a movie a better experience.
This meeting of the Losers Club has officially begun.
I came to the day expecting that new things will make the scene better. And there you see, you know, Bill Hader doing the Jabba the Hutt impression. It wasn't something that I asked him to do. It just brought it, you know? And that's great because you really see the involvement of an actor when he comes to the set with ideas that make the character grow and the scene grow.
Who helped you after Bowers cut you up? That was me.
Please tell me you became a doctor.
No, you became a patient. Burn. Fuck you. That should be a big laugh.
Well,
It's not that good of a joke.
Well, it's because you laugh at your own joke before anybody gets a chance.
No, because
someone else should say burn.
I'm a comedian, and that's
I know.
what we do. That's how
So
you
be
warm
funny.
the audience up. That's
So be funny.
fucking funny.
Is it?
That guy's laughing.
I haven't seen this man in my life.
Thank you, Sarah.
He just sneaked into the shoot.
Yeah, I'm like one of those guys.
Yeah. He was asking for anti-acid.
Yeah.
How did we get him on set? We asked.
I asked him if he would do a cameo for us, and he said, yeah, why not? But then he said, you have to know that every time I am in a movie, I jinx it. So I said, okay, let's turn that around.
Very good. Now we have to do it.
No. That's enough. That's scary enough right there. I'm not much of an actor, but you have to trust the director and you have to trust who's in the scene with you. And in this case, it was James McAvoy, who was very kind to me and helped me out a little bit. And it is kind of a funny scene, but part of that was James helped to flesh the scene out a little bit, so it made it more fun.
You want me to sign it for you?
Nah, I didn't like the ending.
I was ready for him to be bad at acting, but he was bloody good. In the book, his character is an asshole, and we had a little bit of like a tete-a-tete in the script originally, him and I, but when we got the pages on the day, they'd sort of cut a lot of Stephen's stuff, and I was like, I don't know about this. So I was like, we need to get some of that sort of assholery back in here. So what I felt really proud of was going back to the book and putting words that he wrote into his mouth. That was like, this is weird, this is meta, this is like, Bill Denborough is putting Stephen King's words into Stephen King's mouth.
I am now in my mind writing my Oscar acceptance speech.
That's a picture wrap on the one and only Stephen King.
He could have come for a day to do the scene, but he came for 3 days to do the scene and to hang out with us. Came with Ethan, his grandchild, and we had a blast. It was amazing.
Stepping into day 53, what's happened? Oh man, what hasn't happened, right? That's that's the typical response. Let's see, we have fought Pennywise, we've been to the cisterns, we've been dunked in water, and we've been dunked in blood. We have destroyed a Chinese restaurant. Everything the losers are cracked up to be, that's we've done it. You name it, we've done it.
Oh no!
So Andy, the first one was the color from last year.
I know which one it's gonna be. It's gonna be the one in the middle. That looks like barf.
Andy loves vomit. He just wants to honor it, so.
Right. There's no way of getting out of the vomit.
No.
Fuck you!
It's a lot, man. It's a lot. Yeah, we got through last week and it was really funny because I remember thinking, oh man, I'm getting older because I felt really tired at the end of the first week.
Dude, that was not gonna stop. That was like fun with him and 6 of his friends.
Honestly, and I truly mean this, I get so impressed with the crew. I am more impressed with the crew than anything else because they've been here for so much longer than we have, and they'll be here for so much longer after I leave. The stamina that it takes to get through these days is insane.
Andy likes to stack units because he likes to be there for the second unit shoot. So a lot of times Andy and I would do like 20-hour days.
Then where are we going now? We're going to second unit. We're not going to principal, right? And why do we go to second, Andy?
Because I'm doing double shifts.
Yes.
Yeah.
You're
Because
doing
I
double
can't let
shifts?
go. I can't let go. I have to supervise fucking everything.
Andy is like a child, whereas he's a dreamer. His heads are in the clouds. He never gets tired, so he will literally not stop shooting. He'll just go. And Barbara is very good at organizing it and making sure that at the end, you know, we reach something, that we have a goal and we're going to achieve it and we're staying in the budget and the sets are going to be built on time. Andy, you know, he needs that to create what he has, and they need each other because they're incredible partners.
The bathroom set with Jessica, the bathroom and the blood, that was particularly challenging, especially for her.
When I first got the script and it had Beverly in that bathroom stall and the stall filling with blood, I was like, oh, that's super cool, because first of all, it's terrifying and visually shocking, but then also I like the symbolism of it, you know, this idea of what does it mean for her to become a woman, especially in her house where she's being abused by her father. I love the idea of Beverly being swallowed up by blood. I then called Andy, we were talking about the scene, and he was explaining it to me, and he said that the blood would stop here. And I said, well, that's not very visually, you know, exciting. I was like, but why doesn't it go all the way up? If it's like a really terrifying scene, it should be like a Carrie moment, right? He's like, well, I just assumed you wouldn't want to do that. I said, no, if I'm trying to climb out at some point, let's just have me drop in.
When you're working with a very tiny set that has to be flooded with something, there's not a lot of space for the cameras. So you have to be very, you know, strategic with it, but also like seize the moment, because you can't do it like, you know, 17 times.
We really mapped it out as much as we could without the blood. And then we would do these things where I would be holding on and he's on, and you know, Andy's on the mic and he'd be like, okay, you could fall.
Blood is rising and action!
Under the water, I would plug my nose and I'd hold on to the bottom of the stall and I just like would count to 5. And then I'd like shoot back up.
I love you! And one more! And cut.
And that blood was so disgusting. Because it was like in your eyeballs and it gets in your nose and your ears and you just feel it all over you.
Show me what it would look like with your left arm submerged. That is pretty dramatic. I like it a lot.
Okay. You know, Andy was saying like, you know, oh, it's so great, Jessica, I'm so happy. I said, okay, well, you're gonna find out how happy you are.
One more time! One more time!
And cut. Very good. Bravo.
She had no problem, but she had to run to me after the scene and soak me in fucking blood.
No.
Can you just go around and make sure?
At the very end of the shooting day, I just gave Andy and Barbara the biggest bear tackle and the biggest bear hug.
I think her motivation during the scene was not character related. It was like, when I finish the scene, I can go to Andy and soak him up.
You guys look like you were just born. And it's my favorite picture. They blew up this picture and gave it to me, and it's the two of them just covered in this slime. It's so disgusting, but we all look really happy.
So right now we are in Port Hope, the beautiful city of Port Hope. Love you guys, and we're shooting for It #2.
Yeah. We love each other.
Don't touch me, freak.
Oi.
Not my
Guess we
friend.
don't. Okay.
Just kidding, we love each other.
We love each other. We have group chats everywhere. We talk to each other all the time. We hang out as much as we possibly can. We're a thing.
We are a thing.
The losers in real life.
It's like, you know, going back to something that you love so much. It's like going back to last summer of school. Everyone had such a great time on a screen. And it is actually a love letter to childhood. It talks about all the treasures that lie in childhood, the power of imagination and belief that you inevitably lose when you grow up. And Stephen King really made an impact when I was growing up. So for me was how much of an influence Stephen King was in the way I understand stories and I tell stories.
I was born and raised in Buenos Aires, and in the summer, our parents wouldn't allow us to watch TV, but we could read anything we wanted. And we discovered Stephen King, I think, when I was around 12.
And being a reader of Stephen King since like young age, it helps you grow up with a bit of sense of humor against adversity, with sarcasm and a sense of irony that is important when you want to be an artist.
I got to read it when I was 15. It blew my mind because it was the first time that I was reading characters that were so close to my age, that were in real perilous situations. They were fighting bigotry, anti-Semitism, and sexism. I couldn't believe what I was reading because it made me feel so powerful. You know, as a 15-year-old, if these kids could do this, we all can. And it never left me.
Barbara is my sister, and you know, working with your family is really a privilege. I'm a director, she's a producer. And sometimes they're like, you know, two ends of the same team that sometimes they clash in the middle because there's always the creative part versus the financial part. At the end of the day, it's always a relief knowing that she has my back and I have hers. We trust each other. We're always in the same team, and all we want is make a great movie. When the previous version of this production stopped, when we came in, we all agreed that we would make the movie. We sort of started from scratch, and it took us around a year to go into production again. You know, that's the fastest we could think of doing it.
No, and it was miraculously fast, and also it fit perfectly because we needed summer hours with the kids.
I'm Finn, and I play Richie.
Hi, I'm Wyatt, and I play Stanley.
I'm Jeremy, and I play Ben. We're at
I don't play anybody. I'm just
Homeless
the
man.
Wanderer.
just a wanderer. I'm an onlooker of the set. The cast in this movie seems to easily relate to their characters, and they don't just portray their characters perfectly. They bring a new light to their characters.
What are you listening to? Wow. New Kids on the Block.
I don't even like them. I was just...
Wait, you're the new kid, right? Now I get it.
King made it so easy for us to cast them because we knew exactly what we were looking for. It was instant, and you know, the guys would come in the room, and sometimes they wouldn't even come for that particular role, but they started talking, and you could see, okay, this is Stanley, obviously, this is Richie, clearly. So it was very, very easy.
You know what these are? They're placebos. They're bullshit.
No, sweetie, they help you. They help me. When you were born, you were so small and so delicate and fragile. I had to protect
How
you.
could any of this protect me? Those people that you made me turn my back on, those are my friends. You made me turn my back on them when I really needed them. And now they really need me, so I'm going.
I'm so lucky and happy to have found these actors. In some cases, it was more noticeable, and they were closer to the characters than in others. But if you see the case of Finn playing Richie, there's so much similarities between those two characters.
Let's face facts. Real world. Georgie's dead. Stop trying to get us killed like you got him killed.
I didn't get my brother killed.
Out of the way, Bill. You couldn't save him, but you can still save yourself.
And Jaden, there's that introspective, shy nature, also that mastermind, and the calm, quiet judgment.
Let's go.
Go? Go where?
Niable. That's where Georgie is.
After that?
We have to go. I first auditioned as Eddie, and then he saw me, and I had grown and from Midnight Special, I'm guessing. Because that's the last movie that I did, and I was pretty small. And then he saw me and I was bigger, and I guess he saw more Bill and my personality. That thing took my brother. I'm going.
We did individual work, of course, and then we started working with them in groups. And by the time we hit this combination, it was so clear that these were the guys. I never thought we'd get that chemistry in a group. You know, they were meeting each other for the first time. And these are, you know, kids in their awkward age, or 12, 13, and they're all fantastic. I mean, we saw it in the table reading. They are amazing.
No, I know. Let me hold it. It's amazing. It's dude! Are we supposed to see a turtle in this movie? In this game?
Dude, there's a turtle scene in this. It's a sign.
Annie, did we decide? Sorry, just to belabor this a little bit, but we decide that Pennywise wasn't going to come out of the water, that he was just going to travel towards them, and then, or was he going to travel towards them and you want him to float right out of the water?
I don't want him to float anymore. He's just like, he's going to be prompted out of the water.
Right.
And he's going to pretend to be like marching out of it.
Right.
We knew when we were looking for Pennywise that whoever we chose was gonna very much guide what kind of film we would be doing. We saw about 160-something auditions, and there were performances covering the whole gamma of what Pennywise could have been. What we found with Bill was that his instincts were so perfect and so aligned with the way Andy saw Pennywise.
Is this your boat? It's a nice boat. Floats.
Even just to audition for this part was fun for me, because it was just like, do your interpretation of what you think the clown would be.
Well, I'm Bob Gray. Pennywise to my friends. What do they call you?
Georgie.
Georgie. Now we aren't strangers, are we?
There was a strange balance that he brought, you know, a strange energy, because he's very childlike. He has these big eyes, sort of childish, cute face, but he brings a darkness that is very, very unsettling. He can play this ambiguity, this dichotomy very well. It comes very easy to him. He understands it.
I did a screen test in Toronto with a very basic clown makeup. I mean, it wasn't even prosthetics or anything. They just, you know, kind of a bald cap, and like, I looked like Krusty the Clown.
Feast for Pennywise. Ripe fear, raw fright, belly full of blood-rubbing dread.
It was hard for me to figure out what the character looked or moved like or anything, because such a big part of it is the makeup and the costume. And I didn't know what that would be or how it would look or how it would feel to have on you. So going into it, I kind of really broke down the character kind of intellectually, like what I think this entity is, but I couldn't really physically become him until I got all the makeup and the costume on. So that was a very important piece for me to kind of, the first time I got to see the makeup on, to see how my face moved and what certain things looked like, and then the same thing with the costume.
Amazing.
Monster transformation!
So today, Bill Skarsgård, who plays Pennywise, is getting dressed in his complete costume, hair and makeup, and we're going to have a camera test with him, and then it's going to be sent off to the studio.
How great does he look? Oh my goodness.
When you start designing a character with these characteristics, you have your ideal in your head and the design of it, and the sketch is the blueprint of what that creature is, and then comes the actor.
Bonsoir.
Hello.
You doing, man? Good.
Good. It's interesting how the work of bringing these two ideas together, the concept and the reality.
And action.
The camera test was basically that ring of fire moment where I saw for the first time if my concept matched the application of that criteria on the actor. Mainly it was so fun because one part of me was finally at ease with that uncertainty of what the pieces would look like together. And it was very successful.
And cut. That's awesome.
Good. Cut.
Derry is based on a city called Bangor in Maine, of course. It was the hometown of Stephen King. I'd never been to Bangor before, so I made a trip to Bangor. I was there for a few days and wanted to see every corner of it. And it was a great experience because, you know, basically every event covered in the book has its place in Bangor.
Here's the group. Location wing. This is great right here.
Okay.
Thank you, sir.
It was prohibitive to shoot in Maine. That was my first idea. And we found this amazing town called Port Hope. Immediately, I found like some similarities to Bangor. I found other things that were not like Bangor at all, but they were quite intriguing in a cinematic way. And then after a while, I embraced the idea that we are recreating Derry. The way it's geographically distributed, it gives us the chance to like, really build a town.
That framing with the houses works very well.
This was a very hard location to find because the house at the end of the Neville Street is precisely a house at the end of the street. It had a few specifications that are very hard to find in a location. Because we built this whole thing on an empty land, we needed sort of a corner of a street at the end of a lonely street with not too many houses, with an empty lot across of it. So we find the perfect spot. In fact, I was inspired by the Neville house of the book. So basically this is pretty much a faithful interpretation of what my understanding of Neville was. I think the original has a bit of a red paint, but I didn't want it red, so it's just wood color. But it's built in the Victorian style. It has a bit of a face. It has a smile because it's all crooked. The awning, you see how crooked it is, and I wanted that to be a bit of a mirror of Pennywise's smile. If you see the railings, they're all like broken down, and they sort of mimic teeth, up and down. So this whole thing looks like a big maw that is waiting for you to get in and eat you.
The first days of it, more than the beginning of the shoot itself, I remember the beginning of the rehearsals. We brought the kids to Canada about 3 weeks before we started shooting, very much by design, because we wanted them to become best friends. That was incredibly important for us. And also, we wanted them to leave their 2016 selves and be kids of '89. That meant no cell phones and learning how to ride bicycles.
Oh, it makes me wanna laugh. It makes me wanna laugh.
As we got into the bonding, we realized that a couple of the kids did not necessarily know how to ride a bike.
Not in this generation, yeah.
Now we're putting them in groups so they get used to riding with each other and not hit each other. That's the aim. Not hit each other and not hit the mums and dad.
The first conversations we had were mainly about the teamwork for the Losers Club, the ensemble that they are. Like everything we do, it revolves around each other, and it's the friendships.
By the end of 3 days, these kids couldn't live without each other. They were together every single day, even the days off. They were like kids from the 80s, basically, again. And I just love that because it reminded me so much of our childhood and the age that I was when I read the book.
We are losers. Yeah, we are losers. Now we're winners.
It's so much fun, right? It's so much fun.
The only challenge I can think of is like the time restrictions, because you can only work so many hours with kids that age.
It's a very demanding film for the children. They are doing things that they've never done. A lot of emotional acting, but also very technical.
These are your worst enemies. These guys can eat you alive, all right? So it's a very important moment because it's like the first time that you really defy these kids, okay?
Something I didn't want, or Eddie didn't want, was that the losers have become really good friends with the bullies. So we're like, no, no, no. And they're rapping together and they're having the best time. You can't help that.
I try to be friends. I don't have
We're friends on the low. On the low. We can't be friends in public. We all know it's different when we're in the scene and when we're out of the scene, because it's funny, like, they'll beat you up or something like that, and then after the scene, they'll be like, are you okay, are you okay?
Get the fuck up!
They're nice guys, but when we're in the scene, it's quite scary, We forget all about our friendship and just get the movie done. It gets a lot easier when you have good actors with you to act actually scared, because you are.
Yeah, it's really weird going to totally friends and then 1 second Nick's beating me up and 1 second he's hugging me. Oh yeah, come here, Nick.
I spoke to Andy before the takes when we were into close-up, where Jeremy really needed to ramp up his performance.
Scream, help.
Help!
In the rehearsals and throughout the process, I use a lot of phrases that help the kids if they repeat them a number of times to get into a moment. So I think that day I said to Jeremy, just scream, get off me.
And action!
Right before the take, I screamed as loud as I could, and then just tears started running down my face, and after the take, I was like, wow, I don't even know what just came out, because Benjamin Perkins, our acting coach, told me to do that, and it worked amazingly.
I spent quite a lot of time talking to the bullies about how far they could go with Jeremy. Nick, so intense in his performance, but he's also very concerned about how that might affect the other actors.
We were doing a scene with Jeremy Taylor at the kissing bridge, and we were terrorising the hell out of him, getting in his face, screaming at him.
Henry, please!
After every take, I always make sure to ask if he's okay. Most of the time it was just he gave me a big hug. But if the kids were any less sort of all right with what we're doing to them, which is insane that they are, you wouldn't feel as comfortable around them, and they wouldn't feel as comfortable around you. We try and hang out as much as possible, It's not just us over and having dinner at the next table and the losers over there, we're intermingled and having fun.
And our kids are 12. Most of them are 12, and a couple of them are 13. It's the last days of their childhood. And you can see them that they're still kids. When you get them to play and rejoice in that childhood, it's wonderful.
Hey, are you guys friends now?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, best friend.
We're very good friends.
That was weird.
Yeah.
That was weird, yeah.
Well, if I wasn't his friend, I wouldn't be comfortable with that. But somehow I am.
Comfortable with this?
Stop!
Get in there, get in the shot.
When you're making a movie, you have to deal with all sort of limitations and boundaries. And of course, like financial ones are the most prominent ones. It has an enhanced meaning when you're like adapting a massive work like it. 1,200 pages. It's so rich in characters and details and scope. And you're making it into a 2-hour movie. And you don't have like $200 million to make. So it's a challenge.
No, I can record it so in posterity, if it ever happens, it will be recorded that we would like for Chastain to play Beverly as the adult.
But don't use that anywhere.
Watch
it.
This is something you can pull when we get it.
Sophia probably is the one with the least experience in movies, but so talented and so naturally gifted, very instinctive too.
This is totally new to me. I've never had this big moment, something this big. I actually didn't know if it was big or not when I first got it. So it's just like all new to me, like how like there's this studios and then there's interviews, and I did not expect this.
Incredibly, to be the only girl amongst a group of 6 boys, she holds her own fantastically. But she has 2 brothers, so she's quite used to being quite rambunctious.
It's like we don't even acknowledge that she's a woman. If that's a bad thing, then please tell me.
You tell me, Sophia, is that a bad thing?
I mean, she's just so like, she doesn't even bring up, she's like, oh, I'm with a bunch of boys. She doesn't even bring it up. It's just so like natural and cool that we're best friends. It's so cool.
The bathroom scene had to be like very intense, you know? It's like you can't like hold back, you know, in a scene like that. There's an added element that I think will make the scene even more tense, which is the element of the hair. Beverly's hair is basically a reflection of her acting against the abuse. Her hair is something that her father is fixated on, and it sort of represents the abuse in the film.
Everything that she sees just traumatizes her, anything relating to her father. She's also scared of blood, because when she starts to look down in the sink, she sees hair and blood.
The way that it has to terrorize her is basically attacking her with her own hair. There could be a more terrifying incarnation than that, because it's not about a creature that attacks you, but it attacks you with your worst fear. And that's when the blood comes out. So it's a bit of a variation from the original event, but it's pretty intense.
Hi, Georgie. Want you both back?
It was a hard R from the get-go. There's not a way around it, really. If you're gonna make a story about a monster that eats children, you can't go just soft on a story with that idea. It's also about making justice to Stephen King and his style and the way he writes. You know, he doesn't hold anything back.
Have you guys seen Pennywise yet?
Nope.
No.
No.
We're not allowed to see him. Oh, I think he's bad. I'm gonna call he has blue hair.
I'm gonna say he's.
I already think I know. I heard something. I heard one thing. That he has one green eye and one orange eye. It's supposed to look like a mime. Something like a mime. That's the only thing I heard from Andy. We're rehearsing back.
I've been trying to keep Pennywise afar from the losers. I don't want them to see him. I'm expecting that to have some shock to them.
They've been very secretive. Andy's been very secretive of it. I saw a picture. I don't know if it was. I've seen character models, but I was shooting and I saw something on Barbara's computer that I probably shouldn't have seen. I don't know if it was him, but it might have been a character model. I'm not sure. I have no idea.
Yeah, it's been about 2 months. Still haven't seen Pennywise. Today will be the first day.
They're gonna put him in the place that we're about to film, and then when we go in there, they're gonna have our first reaction.
I never get scared. I never get scared.
Are you scared?
He's freaking me out.
I'm actually
It's working for me.
With how scary this house is and how scary he is, man, it's not gonna be any acting. It's really gonna be scary.
Roll sound, please.
Anyone else feel a chill?
The first scene I shot was with Jack, who plays Eddie, and it's me coming out of the fridge, and I think it's probably one of the, if not the most intense scene in the film in terms of Pennywise and another actor, because I'm so in his face.
He's so crazy, so carefree that it makes it even scarier because he doesn't have to try to sound scary. He's just scary because like it's like he doesn't even care. Like he's having fun while killing people and haunting people. So it's just like he's like a maniac, you know?
This isn't real enough for you, Billy. It's real enough for Georgie.
Oh my God.
The scene in the kitchen is the first encounter between Pennywise and the losers. And you can see it. You can see the reaction of them. And you see Sophia like retreating into the wall, and she's so credible. And I'm not sure to this day if she was acting or not. He was very intimidating, with the eyes like completely like looking to different directions, and with that thing that he does. It's real drool, it's real slobber.
The teeth made him slobber like crazy.
It's real spitting, and you see the spit going from Bill's mouth right into Jack Grazer's face.
And cut.
So gross. So I'm gonna be throwing his mouth. Okay, wanna hear something disgusting?
Yeah.
So remember when he was like in my face trying to bite me, he drooled and he got it on my lips, and then after the take, I thought it was my own drool, so I went like this.
Was it delicious?
It was terrible. And then after that, I like, oh my God, that was just drool. It was terrible. I actually gagged like for real. It's amazing.
Of course, after that first sequence, the effect starts to diminish, but at least you catch it for that moment.
Hey guys, are you ready to beat the shit out of me? I can't hear you.
Okay, amusez-vous bien.
Hi, I'm standing next to my dead self. Can I show this to Pennywise? I'll show him that he eats my flesh.
I remember when Georgie, little Jackson, wanted to see Pennywise, and he saw him from afar, and he told his mom, I want to go see Pennywise. And his mom and the tutor said, no, you can't. You have